Peace and blessings, YouTube family. Again, it's always an honor, privilege, and pleasure to come before you in truth, knowledge, and understanding. Depending on the region you live in, good day, good morning to you, or good evening. This day, I really want to dive deeper into the subject of semen retention and its seriousness to the time in which we now live. The powers that we are capable of tapping into from that one practice will lead us to great success. Ultimately, the low desires we have to put down. We got to stop lying. We got to stop fornicating. We got to stop this wicked behavior and these wicked machinations. These wicked machinations is what limiting us from success, from tapping into our powers, from evolving, from coming together in unity. It is wicked barriers, and these wicked barriers have to be broken down with righteous principalities. It's only one way we can do this, and this is with discipline of self, self-love, self-mastery, self-unity. You have to be unified with yourself. You have to be mastery of self. Then you can master your environment, your atmosphere, and then discuss unity amongst others. I really want to go deeper into the subject of semen retention this evening in relationship to the powers that we unlock, but also in relationship to the great deception. The deception part I want to touch on first, because that seems to be what's really attacking us, is the deceptive idea of sex, the misuse of sex, and what that causes in relationship to our condition, our actions, and the direction we're going. So first, I would like to discuss the misuse of self. When you are constantly in that desire of lust or greed or materialism or low desire, Satan, the Satan of self, sex, the misuse of sex, the overindulgence of food or doing drugs, what that causes is for you to start a slow spiral downward in your evolutionary development. So you start to degenerate more and more until you're on the level of an animal or a beast. This is also in the scriptures, which is a nature. As we mentioned before, there are two natures in the human being: the righteous nature and the wicked nature, the lower nature, the higher nature. The lower nature is the animal nature, and the uppermost high nature is the God nature within every human being. But we have to live up to that, because a lot of us, many of us, are not living up to that because we get caught in the traps along the way. We have to learn that this is an evolutionary pilgrimage in our development toward God. We have to continue to stay steadfast and fortified on righteousness to continue to evolve and grow and tap into these great powers that we desire. We really desire power. We just don't know how to tap into it. We don't know how to gain power. So we seek it from the carnal world opposed to the spiritual unseen world. So I want to go a little bit further down the rabbit hole with this conversation with semen retention in relationship to unlocking the powers. It is something that you can't necessarily want the power. You can't think about the power or the benefits. It is something that God ordains and grants you as you continue to overcome the pain and the discomfort and the challenge of mastering that urge. As you continue to master that urge, you gain more strength, more power, and more favor with your creator, and more of God is revealed to you, and then you start to subtly grow into powers. The deception is, we think pleasure is good. We think just because it feels good or because it tastes good is good for us. That is the greatest trick of all. Just because it tastes good or feel good, Satan can come in between those desires and destroy us, just because something may feel good or taste good to our physical body, but it's destroying your physical body. You may not feel that destruction right away. Sometimes it happens later, but it ultimately destroys the mind and the spirit, because the desires, the low desires, is what causes us to degenerate into the animalistic level. Really, semen retention, as I mentioned, is just a stepping stone in this process to evolving and tapping into the powers, because that is, in this sex crazy world, that is a reasonable sacrifice to the creator. So when you can overcome and master that, you're well on your way to becoming a future ruler of self and becoming a ruler amongst men and women in society. What they do is they use these images, they use social media to constantly keep that desire titillated and stimulated. So you think, or we think, just because it's constantly being promoted or constantly being shown or presented to us, that it's the right thing to follow or the right thing to do. And that is the greatest trick of all. We are constantly being tested. Life is all about tests. Life is all about overcoming trials, tribulations, overcoming challenges, making sacrifices. That's what life is all about. Your decision and your attitude in these trials and tribulations will determine your elevation or your decline in this life. We have to ultimately make sure that we are on the uprise spiritually. Obviously, your body is going with your mind and spirit, but we got to focus on the upcline or the incline spiritually. So I also want to discuss, and I'm very grateful for the hundreds and thousands of brothers that I have connected with in America and all over the world that have been watching these YouTube videos and have been inspired to get on their semen retention journey. That is absolutely amazing, and I want to commend the brothers to continue to stay on that path, because it is the beginning of your life. You really start to experience life when you can overcome that urge and master that urge. That is the beginning of your existence, really. It's almost like being reborn, and so that's how serious this is. So to be brief, because we've mentioned this before, the ultimate goal of Satan, the ultimate goal of the rulers, or the present rulers, those who control, the wicked doers, the wicked ones, their goal is to keep us powerless, ignorant, not woke, not working, not unifying, so that we can stay disunified, weak, and powerless, and they stay in power. The same people who perpetuate self-destruction, the same people who perpetuate disaster and chaos amongst society and human beings, these are the same people who pull the strings and manipulate our way of thinking. And we have to be more intelligent than that, than to allow the same people who are the same devils and demons who have destroyed society to continue to control our minds. So it's really time to start waking up. It's time to start becoming more disciplined. It's time to start understanding what righteousness is. We have to stop lying. We have to stop stealing. We have to stop cheating. We have to stop fornicating. All of these wicked things that we do and make excuses about, the games are over. We have to stop that now. Because what's going to happen is that you're going to lose your life. You're not going to survive much longer. The death aspect is something that progressively comes amongst you. The death angel, or the death, process, is not always instant. A lot of times it is a slow death that leads to your ultimate death. And other times it can be quick death. But either way, you're dying because you're in deviation to the law of God. You're in deviation to the law of nature. You're in deviation to the law of righteousness. No way you will be successful disobeying the law of righteousness, when that is the very law we were created out of. We were not created out of falsehood and lies and wickedness. Our very existence is rooted in righteousness and truth. Otherwise, we would not exist. The water that we drink is water of truth, because it hydrates our bodies. The sunlight that we receive from that great, magnificent sun out there is the sunlight of truth, because it keeps us living. It keeps us with vitamins. It keeps us illuminated. The vegetation is vegetation of truth, because when we eat it, it keeps us alive. It keeps us healthy. It keeps us nourished, well nutrition, not malnutrition, well nutrition. If it was false vegetation, it would kill us. It would be poison. It would be detrimental. So that's the difference between truth and lies. Lies have no power. Truth has power. We have to base our lives in truth. That's the only way we're going to be successful. Don't fall for the lies of Satan and Satan's world, because his world is rooted in lies and tricknology. And if you fall for the trick, you disappoint God, because Satan works for God. God has allowed Satan to rule and to trick humanity. And only the strong overcomers are going to be the winners and will be the favorite amongst God. because everyone else who get caught in those tricks and traps will be the weak. So God is looking to see who will overcome Satan's tricks, who will overcome Satan's traps and lies and deceit. So it's time to really get serious about life. Life is more than just pleasure. We have to start accepting the reality of pain. With pain, there's growth, there's development, there's intelligence. With pleasure, you get comfortable in pleasure. Pleasure, there is no growth. You actually move backwards in pleasure. We have to start accepting the reality of pain. And then when you accept that reality, God will stand with you and then empower you and give you the strength to overcome and be able to tolerate the pain, but never run away from it. I'm not saying pain in an insane way, just inflicting pain on yourself physically, but mental and spiritual pain as well, making sacrifices, being charitable, giving up things that you desire, even if you want it. It may not be the best thing for you right now. Make sacrifices in a way where it will benefit you later. And that's situational, and that can depend on the situation and the individual. But we have to tap into the Creator and tap into our righteous self, so that we're well guided. Because if we don't know where we're headed, if we don't know which direction we're going in, then that means that we're disconnected from God. We're disconnected from truth. We're not being guided, which means someone else is guiding us. And if it's not God guiding you, it's Satan. There's no middle ground. Either you're the wicked or you're the righteous. Either you're good or you're bad. Either Satan is your God or God of righteousness, the Creator, is your God. So we can't serve both. All of this stems back to one of the practices, which is semen retention. And that practice in itself will teach us how to make reasonable sacrifices, giving up pleasure, giving up things that we desire. And you get in the habit, and then the longer you go, you really start to unlock tremendous powers and insight and wisdom, really by the grace of God. So I want to encourage the brothers to continue to stay on this path, continue to speak truth, don't tell lies. I don't care if it's something as small as saying you're going to call somebody back or sending a text message or whatever. Whatever you say you're going to do it. Follow up with that person. Don't lie. God is watching your every action, your every move. And when you lie, that is a tremendous sin and a tremendous strike against you, because you know the truth and you reject truth. And that's very dangerous. Always tell the truth, regardless of the consequences. Speak truth, live righteous, overcome your weaknesses, and continue to go after God's sheep, go after the flock. Those of us who have been blessed and anointed with the knowledge and wisdom from the Creator, it is our duty to go out and spread that knowledge. It is our duty to not keep it to ourselves, but to spread it to our brothers and sisters, so that they wake up and understand the time that we're living in, and spread it to humanity so that they understand the importance of the time that we're living in. And from there, situations will occur where they will be tested and tried and refer back to the conversation you may have had with them. All our job is just to plant the seed, and the Creator will water the seed with situations and circumstances. So, this conversation can go very deep, very deep. But I really just wanted to touch on the deception very briefly. The deception of what has us in this condition, and why we seem to be moving so far backward, is because we refuse to master self. We refuse to master our own weaknesses. It's time to now start mastering our weaknesses and low desires, so that we can be ready and prepared for the great promise of the God. God wants to make us rulers, the righteous. God wants to make us rulers. God wants to prepare us for a great reward that we earn through righteous code of conduct and overcoming Satan's world. So let's prepare ourselves and get ready for the next world, because this one is finished. So there's a new world coming in, the world of righteousness. The wickedness is being exposed, as you can see. So wickedness no longer has place in this universe, because it's being exposed now, and like none like ever before. The truth has never been so evident and obvious as it is today. It was hid for so long, but now it's coming out. So you can see that wickedness is being exposed and righteousness is settling in. Because if you don't live righteous, then you choose death. So let's get it together, family. Let's continue to overcome our weaknesses and live in harmony with our Creator, and not in constant chastisement. Thank you, and peace and blessings.